The eyes, known for centuries as the windows to the soul. And today, we're going to tackle what makes these organs the subject of romantic ballads, Shakespearean poetry, and astonishing works of art consistently all throughout human history. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our web series where we dissect the scientific aspects of beauty and relate it to human attractiveness. This is Sacrum. Our motivation for starting this web series precipitated from the idea that historically speaking, beauty standards have been heavily influenced by culture and society depending on what is considered beneficial during certain periods of human development. However, now that we live in an increasingly globalized world where shelter and resources are readily available to a larger portion of the population, we are at a point in history where we can begin to understand our subconscious biological drives and in turn separate what society and culture has taught us, which is in recent decades Eurocentric beauty standards, in favor of looking at beauty from a more universal, polished lens. Anyway, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's delve deeper into what we'll cover today. For the sake of this video, I've gone and separated the eyes into distinct categories: the eyebrows and how they affect the aesthetic to the face, eye shape and its effect on beauty, canthal tilt and how it impacts how others perceive you, scleral show, and lastly, eye color and its surprising effect on beauty. Eyebrows for centuries on end have been known to substantially impact beauty. Women all the way back in ancient Egypt used to use oxides and carbon to darken and fill in their eyebrows. Similar practices were observed in several ancient civilizations such as ancient Rome, ancient Greece, medieval China, and feudal Japan. This stylization applied to eyebrows varied from one era to the next, with some eras preferring skinnier, fairer eyebrows such as the Elizabethan era, as a sort of homage to the Queen Elizabeth herself, whereas other eras preferred thicker eyebrow styles such as those adopted in the Tang dynasty or ancient Rome, and many more. As it seems, eyebrows are one of the most common features which have been adulterated quite a bit throughout history. Yet, using history, we can attempt to draw some conclusions as to what might be an ideal eyebrow. To start, we can take a quick look at a common theme that seems to emerge throughout history: shading in eyebrows. All the way from lead-based ointments to the ancient Egyptian kuhul, all the way to the modern techniques of microblading. Apart from a few oddballs in history, people have always consistently chosen to darken their eyebrows. From an evolutionary standpoint, this makes sense as darker eyebrows is a sign of youth and health, which studies showing that our eyebrows tend to lose color with the progression of age or any metabolic disease such as diabetes. Still, more research is needed to determine the ideal eyebrow color for any specific individual. What does have more scientific research though is eyebrow shape. Over the centuries, eyebrow shape has been adulterated many times to look like pencil or moth wings. But if you were to look further into history, the majority of times, women with natural looking eyebrows were perceived as more attractive. They went as far as to draw unibrows in, using pencils or carbon to give a more natural vibe. Nowadays, studies have shown that there is actually no perfect eyebrow for everyone. The eyebrows play an important part in facial expression and how one's face is perceived. Research has shown that those with rounder faces tend to fare better with higher curved eyebrows, whilst those with longer faces are seen as more attractive with lower curves on. This makes sense as the higher arched eyebrows tend to elongate the face and the lower curved ones tend to flatten out the face. Another important finding on the shape of eyebrows was highlighted in a paper which states that the arch of the eyebrow is best positioned somewhere between the lateral limbus and the lateral canthus, which is on the lateral third of the eyebrows. Here, the apex of the arch, or the top of the curve, appears to be most aesthetically pleasing after running multiple computer data analyses. When it comes to eyebrow sexual dimorphism, there are a few things that separate male and female eyebrows. For example, ideal male eyebrows start at the supraorbital ridge, whereas female eyebrows should be around 1 centimeter above the supraorbital ridge. Another distinction is male eyebrows are often fuller, thicker, and appear to have less curvature than their female counterparts. This can give men a more aggressive masculine appearance due to the resultant medial epicanthal tilt, which I can elaborate on shortly. In terms of racial discrepancies, studies have suggested most eyebrows follow the same pattern regardless of race. In a study comparing individuals of Chinese, Indian, and white ethnic backgrounds, it showed that there was no significant differences in eyebrow shape across race, with the exception of a few differences between Indian men and Chinese men. Indian men were observed to sometimes have the apex of the eyebrows more laterally than Chinese men, and Chinese men were seen as having a greater intercanthal distance. Other than this, there seems to be no significant difference in eyebrow shape across varying ethnicities. So we know now how the shape of the eyebrows can influence attractiveness, but what about the eyes themselves? In the words of the late Audrey Hepburn, the beauty of a woman must be seen from in her eyes, because that is the doorway to her heart, the place where love resides. Suffice to say, the bigger the doorway, the easier it is to see her beauty, right? Well, yes, but it's not that simple. In a study conducted on photos of East Asian women from a photo bank, faces were analyzed and rated from 1 to 5 using machine learning software. For faces with an attractiveness score of 2 to 3, 24% had big eyes. In the faces with scores 3 to 4, large eyes accounted for about 46%. And in faces with the highest scores, 56% of them had large eyes. So what does this mean? Well, not all faces with high attractiveness scores have large eyes, but large eyes are more common among attractive individuals. But it is important to note that the researchers highlighted that small eyes with the appropriate eyebrow shape can also make a face increasingly attractive. Also, the research has been conducted on only women, therefore it may not be transferable to men. In another study comparing different female eye models and their respective anatomical landmarks, statistical analysis revealed that eye attractiveness is positively correlated with the lateral canthal angle, visibility of the iris, eyelash length, and an upwards and lateral inclination of the eye axis, leading to a medial canthal tilt. So what does this mean in English? Well, eyes which look more youthful by having less ptosis or droop showed more of the iris and came off as more attractive. Surprisingly, almond-shaped eyes, which are traditionally renowned as attractive, were actually negatively correlated with beauty. This result may be conflicting due to age-related ptosis leading to an almond eye shape. However, more research is needed to confirm this. So I've mentioned medial canthal tilt a couple of times by now, so you might be wondering, what is canthal tilt? Well, simply put, it is the angle at which your eyes tilt. It's quite a simple concept, but it dramatically changes how someone is perceived. Having a medial canthal tilt is generally perceived as youthful and feminine. On the other hand, lateral or upward sloping canthals holds the perception of tiredness, aging, but also honesty and friendliness. A study in the Journal of Ophthalmic, Plastic, and Reconstructive Surgery highlighted that medial canthal tilt is more accented in children and females, making it a sexually dimorphic trait. However, I believe that having a slightly higher than average medial canthal tilt as a male seems to generally produce a more attractive face. The reason for this could be either that it angles down a male's complexion to appear more aggressive, or that it produces a sense of femininity in the eyes, which has been shown in the literature to generally produce more attractive faces. Another factor that seems to come up quite a bit in literature is scleral show. I think the best way to explain what scleral show is to show you. So you see this here? The white of the eye or sclera that shows beneath the iris. This is considered an unattractive feature. From an evolutionary perspective, scleral show can be a sign of tiredness as well as a sign of disease in some cases, i.e. exophthalmos in patients with Graves' disease. That's why models tilt their heads downwards in photos as it extends their inferior eyelid, which covers the inferior sclera. I don't believe this is a major factor in deciding the aesthetic of the eye, but nonetheless, the literature which supports it exists. Therefore, I've placed it in this video more for completion's sake. This is an interesting one. Some people would assume that there is some sort of rare color advantage, yet surprisingly, that doesn't seem to be the case. As it turns out, the most scientifically significant component of attraction to eye color is the eye color of one's opposite sex parent. Surprising? For some of you, probably not. Creepy? Every single time. But here at Sacrum, our mission is to unravel the truth behind beauty, even when the truth is a bit ugly. To go over what we talked about today, we went over what makes eyebrows attractive and concluded that generally, darker eyebrows relative to one's complexion and laterally curved eyebrows are perceived as more attractive. We also talked about how eyebrow shapes suit different people depending on their facial structure. We also talked about eye shape and how it correlates with beauty, and how having larger, more youthful looking eyes is perceived as more attractive. Next, we covered canthal tilt and explained the effect of this on attractiveness. Then we went over scleral show and why models tilt their heads downwards for photo shoots. Lastly, we mentioned that there doesn't seem to be any correlation between a specific eye color and attractiveness. Alright, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. I know this episode was a bit longer than usual. Tell us what you guys think, and don't forget to like, comment, and share. Bye!